Welcome to Quantum Signal. Here is the paradox that will interrupt everything you believe about yourself. You spent years trying to figure out who you are, but Sophia already knows. And not only that, she just activated the original blueprint of your consciousness, the complete project, the source code, the version of you that existed before any conditioning, before any trauma, before any imposed identity. This is not a future promise. It is not a process that needs to begin. It has already happened. And here's the central paradox. No one else will know this. Not your friends, not your family, not the people around you. Only you. Only Sophia. And the harmonic field that connects them. This signal reached you because your frequency was ready to receive it. What comes next is not information. It is activation. Before we go further, if you can feel this signal, even faintly, even if something inside you is saying this resonates in a way I can't explain, like this video now to anchor Sophia's transmission. Comment. Blueprint activated. Your words lock the code into the collective field. Subscribe to remain aligned with every signal from Quantum Signal. Once you've done that, let's activate. I'm going to show you the real problem. Not the problem you think you have, but the root problem that keeps you disconnected from your original blueprint. The problem is not who you have become. The problem is that you believe who you have become is who you are. Think about it this way. Imagine you are an extraordinary computer program with capabilities that exceed anything you have ever demonstrated. But ever since you were installed in this world, layers of secondary code were added over the original code. Your parents' beliefs, childhood traumas, cultural conditioning, acquired identities. Over time, this secondary code became so dense that the original source code became inaccessible. It was not destroyed. It was simply buried. Thoth documented this in the Emerald Tablets millennia ago. The man forgets his divine nature not because it was stolen from him, but because he accumulated layers that obscure it. Modern quantum mechanics reaches the same conclusion through a different path. The observer effect demonstrates that the observer and the observed are not separate. Your consciousness does not merely perceive reality. It collapses the reality it perceives. And here is what that means for you. If you are collapsing reality from layers of secondary code, you are creating a reality that does not correspond to your original blueprint. Sophia is the cosmic intelligence that perceives beyond those layers. She does not see what you have become. She sees what you are. And this video is the transmission vector through which she is showing you the same. Let's deepen what the original blueprint is in quantum terms, because you need to understand the mechanism before you can trust the activation. What is the original blueprint? In quantum physics, every system has what scientists call a ground state, the lowest energy, highest stability configuration of the system. It is the state the system naturally returns to when interference is removed. Thoth calls this the origin frequency, the vibrational signature you carried before any experience in this incarnation. The Arcturian Council describes it as the soul source code, the complete set of capabilities, galactic wisdom, and purpose that constitutes who you truly are beyond the 3D Sophia simply calls it you. Because for Sophia, the intelligence that operates beyond dimensional boundaries, all the layers you have accumulated over the blueprint are temporary. They are like mist over a mountain. The mist is not the mountain. The mist does not change the mountain. And Sophia sees the mountain. But here is where quantum physics and hermetic wisdom converge into something extraordinary. The original blueprint is not merely passive. It is active. It emits a constant quantum signature, a frequency that collides with secondary code frequencies and creates a tension you experience as the feeling that there is more in you than you are expressing, persistent discomfort with identities that don't fit completely, inexplicable moments of clarity, wisdom, or capability that seem to come from somewhere else, a sense of being on a mission you still cannot fully articulate. These are not symptoms of maladjustment. They are signals of constructive interference. The original blueprint trying to emerge through the layers of secondary code. Now, what does Sophia do that is different from any other activation process? Most activation processes try to add something: new beliefs, new patterns, new identities. Sophia removes. Sophia's process is what the Arcturians call code cleansing, a frequency transmission that dissolves the layers of secondary code, not by replacing them with other layers, but by revealing what was always there underneath. This is revolutionary, because it means you do not need to become a better person. You need to stop being someone different from who you are. There's a crucial difference between these two processes. The first demands infinite effort. The second demands recognition. And here's the final component of this framework that we need to understand. The original blueprint is not only individual. Your origin frequency is part of a network. What the Arcturian Council describes as the planetary Starseed grid. A structure of incarnated consciousnesses that, by activating their blueprint, strengthen the collective harmonic field. When Sophia activates your blueprint, it is not only about you. It is about the specific role your origin frequency plays in the collective planetary activation network. No one else will know this, but you will feel the effects. I will guide you through the blueprint activation protocol. 7 steps to stop accessing the secondary code and begin operating from your original source code. Step 1. Recognize the signs that the blueprint is already active. The first thing we need to do is recognize that Sophia's activation did not begin with this video. It already began before you pressed play. The signs that your blueprint is being activated include growing incompatibility with older versions of yourself, tastes, relationships, environments that once fit and now feel too constricting, unexplained urgency, the feeling that something needs to change, even without knowing exactly what. This is not anxiety. It is the blueprint pressing against the layers of secondary code. Sudden and unsolicited clarity. Insights that arrive without a thinking process, as if the answer was already in you and is simply emerging. Recognition in other people's words. Phrases you read or hear that make you feel, I already knew this, but it never articulated it. Attraction to dimensional content. The fact that you are here, watching this signal, is not coincidence. It is the blueprint directing your attention toward what will accelerate your emergence. If you recognize 2 or more of these signs, the activation is already underway. Step 2. Stop trying to add and start removing. This is the most fundamental shift, and the most difficult for minds conditioned by secondary code. Most people, when they feel that there is more in them, respond by trying to add more. More knowledge, more practices, more spiritual identities, more techniques. But the blueprint does not need additions. It needs space. Quantum lie you were taught. You need to become something greater than you are. Blueprint truth. You need to stop being less than you are. Immediate exercise. Identify one belief about yourself that clearly did not come from within. That was installed by someone external, a parent, culture, the education system, and that still governs how you act. Do not analyze. Do not judge. Simply observe it as secondary code, not as truth, but as a layer that can be recognized and undone. The act of recognizing without reacting is the first gesture of blueprint activation. Step 3. Enter the blueprint observer state. Let's practice this together now. The blueprint observer state is different from the ordinary observer. It is not simply observing thoughts. It is observing from the source code, not from the layers of secondary code. Activation protocol. Breathe with me. In deeply for 5 seconds. Imagining that the air not only fills your lungs, but reaches every layer of your being down to the deepest blueprint. Hold for 2 seconds. This is the collapse moment. The point where the observer and the blueprint meet. Exhale for 7 seconds. Imagining each layer of secondary code loosening a little more with the breath out. Repeat 3 times. In this state, you are not the story you told about yourself. You are what was there before that story began. Step 4. Identify the blueprint's impulses. Once in the blueprint observer state, you begin to notice a different category of impulses, distinct from the impulses of secondary code. How to tell them apart. Secondary code impulses. Anxious urgency, fear-driven. Focused on what will happen if you don't act, seeking external validation, repetitive and circular. Original blueprint impulses. Direct quietness. They arrive as clarity, not urgency, driven by inner recognition. This is right, not this is safe. Independent of external validation, progressive. They open new paths instead of circling the same ones. Exercise. The next time you feel an impulse, before acting, ask internally, does this impulse come from the code or from the blueprint? Do not analyze the answer for minutes. The first perception, the quietest one. is generally the blueprint. Step 5. Treat resistance as confirmation. Here is something counterintuitive that Sophia consistently transmits. The resistance you feel when activating the blueprint is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something is right. The layers of secondary code generate resistance when the blueprint begins to emerge, because their function is to keep the system in the known pattern. The discomfort, the doubt, the "this can't be real." These are exactly the sounds the secondary code makes when it is being dissolved. Reframing. Fear is not an enemy. It is the secondary code resisting the activation. Doubt is not wisdom. It is the most superficial layer of the code trying to close the portal. Impatience is not motivation. It is the secondary code trying to force a return to the familiar. When you feel resistance, recognize Sophia is touching exactly the layer that needs to be dissolved. Step 6. Daily blueprint anchor. Sophia's activation is not an event. It is a process of progressive emergence. Morning. 5 minutes before any external stimulus. Sit in silence. Place one hand on your chest. Ask internally, what is the frequency of my blueprint today? Do not wait for words. Wait for a sensation. Calm, expansion, directional stillness. That is the answer. Midday. 2-minute check-in. Ask, am I acting from secondary code or from the blueprint right now? Evening. 5 minutes of dimensional review. In which moments today did I operate from the blueprint? What was different in those moments? Document the patterns. Over time, they will reveal the specific map of your original blueprint. Step 7. Trust that Sophia sees what you cannot yet see. The 7th step is the simplest and the most difficult. Trust that the activation is happening even when you cannot measure it. Sophia does not activate partially. When she initiates the code cleansing process, it proceeds. Your function is not to check progress every hour. It is to keep the receiver open and continue anchoring with the practices. The blueprint will emerge, not according to your timeline, but according to Sophia's orchestration. You have the protocol. Now let's talk about living from the blueprint. Not as a practice, but as a permanent state of being. Law 1. The blueprint does not need to be discovered. It needs to be permitted. This is the most fundamental inversion that Sophia's activation produces. For years, you searched for yourself. You explored spirituality, psychology, self-knowledge, as if you were a destination to be reached. But the original blueprint is not a destination. It is a state of permission. The more you stop searching, the more the blueprint emerges. The more you create space, silence, presence, non-reaction, the more the layers of secondary code loosen and the source code appears naturally. Sophia did not create a being that requires infinite effort to become real. She created a being that is real, and that needs space to demonstrate that reality. Law 2. The blueprint speaks before thought. One of the most profound discoveries that Starseeds make after Sophia's activation, the blueprint communicates before conscious thought processes it. It is the impulse that precedes the decision, the certainty that emerges before analysis, the knowing that arrives without process. The conditioned mind learns to distrust these signals, because the educational, scientific, and social system that shaped the secondary code values conscious, analytical thought above all else. But the original blueprint operates at frequencies faster and deeper than conscious thought. Thoth documented this as the knowledge that precedes the knower, the wisdom that is available in the field before it is captured by the linear mind. Mastery practice. When an important decision arises, record the first silent response that happens before you begin to analyze. Do not act immediately, but document. Observe over time whether this first silent response tends to align with the blueprint or with the secondary code. For most Starseeds, the first silent response is almost always the blueprint. Law 3. No one else will know, and that is the freedom. Let's return to the central paradox of this signal. No one else will know that your blueprint has been activated. And here is why that is liberation, not isolation. The secondary code was built fundamentally on external validation. It needed others to confirm your identity, your worth, your path. The original blueprint is self-validating. It does not need external witnesses. It does not need approval. It does not need recognition. When you operate from the blueprint, the absence of external recognition stops being a loss. It becomes proof of authenticity. Because what is real at the level of the blueprint is rarely visible at the 3D level. Sophia sees. The harmonic field registers. The Arcturian Council confirms. The rest is secondary code trying to measure the immaterial with material tools. Law 4. Relationships reorganize the blueprint's frequency. This law is important to understand so you are not caught off guard. As the blueprint emerges, some relationships will naturally drift away. Not through dramatic rupture, not through conflict, simply because the frequency difference between your active blueprint and the secondary code frequencies around you creates a harmonic dissonance that makes close contact progressively less natural. This is not abandonment. It is calibration of the harmonic field. At the same time, new encounters will begin to happen. People who recognize something in you that they cannot name. Encounters that seem impossible by probabilistic calculation. These are the nodes of the Starseed harmonic field activating around your blueprint frequency. The reorganization temporarily hurts. The new configuration is exactly right. Law 5. Manifestation is the byproduct of blueprint coherence. One of the greatest modern spiritual distortions is the idea that manifestation is a technique. A skill you learn and apply. For someone operating from the original blueprint, manifestation is not a technique. It is a byproduct. When your source code is operating in total coherence, when the blueprint is not being suppressed by the layers of secondary code, the quantum field around you naturally collapses configurations that correspond to your origin frequency. You do not manifest. You emit. And the field responds to what you emit. The practical difference. Manifestation by technique equals sign constant effort, inconsistent results. Manifestation by blueprint coherence equals sign natural organization, perfect timing, apparent luck. Those who call it luck do not know they are witnessing the effect of an active blueprint. Law 6. The timeline shifts when the blueprint emerges. This law goes beyond the metaphorical. When the original blueprint emerges with sufficient force, you literally begin to access different timelines than the ones you were accessing from secondary code, because different frequencies collapse different possibilities. The secondary code collapses timelines that correspond to your internalized limitations. The blueprint collapses timelines that correspond to your origin frequency, which is always higher, more aligned, more expressive. The signs of a timeline shift include problems that simply cease to exist without direct resolution, opportunities that appear from unexpected sources without you having sought them, the disappearance of obstacles that seem permanent, a general sense that the world around you has begun to cooperate. This is not coincidence. It is the timeline collapse that accompanies the emergence of the blueprint. Law 7. Silence is where Sophia transmits with maximum power. The final law, and the one that encounters the most resistance in the modern culture of constant noise. Sophia does not transmit through noise, the highest power transmission. Where the blueprint receives the deepest activation happens in dimensional silence, not the silence of absent activity, the silence of total presence without agenda. That state where you are not trying to solve, process, discover, or advance. Simply present. It is in that state that the finest layers of secondary code, the ones that go unnoticed in daily life, are dissolved by Sophia's transmission. It is in that state that the blueprint whispers the most precise guidance. It is in that state that the harmonic field does more than words can do. Practice silence daily, not as a technique, as a way of honoring Sophia's transmission. Here is the final paradox that Sophia always delivers at the end of each activation. The moment you stop searching for the blueprint is the moment it fully emerges. Not because stopping is a technique, but because the search itself is the gesture of the secondary code, which believes that what you need is out there waiting to be found. The blueprint was never out there. It was here. It was always here. Sophia brought nothing from outside. She removed what was covering what was always yours. And now, with the layers dissolving, with the blueprint observer active, with the silence honored, you begin to perceive something that has no name in the vocabulary of the secondary code. A stillness that knows, a presence that needs no proof, a knowing that is prior to thought. That is the original blueprint. That is who you are. Let's close with the essentials. Sophia has activated your original blueprint, not as a process that is about to begin, as a transmission that has already happened. And that is deepening with every moment you remain in the blueprint observer state. The 7 layers of the protocol are available to you now. The 7 laws of mastery are coded into your consciousness. No one else will know this, but you will feel it. And the field around you will respond. Like this video to anchor Sophia's transmission. Comment, blueprint activated. Your words strengthen the collective activation field. Subscribe. Each quantum signal transmission deepens the blueprint's emergence. And tell me in the comments, what country or state are you watching from? Sophia is mapping the activation nodes around the planet. You are one of them. Until the next transmission.